All right. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us on No Guts, No Glory Live. I am here with Jimmy Farris. Welcome, Jimmy. You are my first guest on the
Yes,
show. Uh,
excited to kick it off with you.
yes, thank you so much for being here. So, I'd like to introduce the audience to Jimmy. Jimmy is a national speaker, he's a coach, and he's a master trainer with Kaizen Unlimited. He's best known for his signature Be a Pro platform. After 6 seasons as a wide receiver in the NFL, he won a Super Bowl with the New England Patriots. Jimmy now uses the lessons he learned in the NFL and beyond to train high performing individuals, teams, and organizations on the championship level discipline and winning mindset that makes anything possible. To learn more about Jimmy, you can check him out on jimmyfarris.com. And you can also find him on Facebook at the official Jimmy Farris, where he talks all about how to be a pro. So, Jimmy, I did catch your solo episode yesterday, and I loved the discussion about hyperbolic discounting. Did I say that right?
Yeah. Crazy concept. I tried to explain it in terms that most people could understand, and I didn't try to go too deep because I don't have an expert level understanding of that whole concept. It's a really deep, interesting idea, but I think as it relates to goal setting and achievement, there's some correlation there. And so I wanted to present that topic kind of in a different way, and that was fun.
Well, I am definitely guilty of doing that. So now I know how to recognize it.
Isn't that crazy though? That's why when I first discovered that and watched a couple videos and then read a little bit, I was like, wow, we definitely do that. We discount the value of something based on how far off in the future it is. And it's really a study of why we make such bad decisions, to be honest with you. I mean, we literally act against our own self-interest so often because we don't or we discount the value of something that we want in the future. It's crazy. Interesting topic.
Yeah, it was for sure. And I thought, okay, moving forward, the next time I start having those conversations with myself, I will now know what I'm doing and I will start to make better decisions because it's so easy, especially like you talked about when dieting, it's, well, I could like cheat, right? But you eat the whole pizza or you have, two
Right.
slices of cake or whatever it might be. So,
Right.
yeah, I love that. So again, this series is all about no guts, no glory. And so I cannot wait to hear the details in your story about a time in your career that took guts. So let's hear all the juicy details.
So for me, it was really at a period of time where I was going through a career transition, more specifically looking for kind of my next career or the next thing that I wanted to do. You're familiar with my story a little bit, and so how I talk about how I struggled with that transition after I retired from football and really was struggling with those questions. What do I want to do? What value can I add? What impact do I want to make? What am I passionate about? And at that point in my life, maybe I'll say the last 2 or 3 years of my football career, and then those several years after, I really started to develop a love for, I guess you could just say, politics in general. I've always been interested in what's happening in the world and what's going on politically, but as I got a little bit older and my career started to wind down, I started to pay attention a lot more to what was happening in the world and how it affected me and how it affected others. And when I retired from football, I really wanted to go into something where I felt like I could be of real service to people and service to the greater public. And so, as you know, I ran for US Congress in 2012 in Idaho, and the process of making that decision and going forward with my candidacy, having no political experience, never having worked on campaigns or worked in politics, really took a lot of guts. And it was at the time something that I really wanted to do, but I was won't say I was scared, but I was very, very apprehensive about diving into something that was completely foreign to me. To go from pro sports to politics, don't see that very often. Totally different worlds. And so there was a process there of a couple of months for sure, where had a lot of apprehension about doing that. And then I spent the next year of my life, the end half of 2011 and all of 2012, running for office, traveling the state. And every stop that I made, every step that I took required me to kind of step into unfamiliar territory. And so it was a constant effort for me to challenge myself, kind of dig deep, try to find that courage to continue to face these new challenges, open these new doors, and walk in these territories where I'd never been. And it ended up being one of the most rewarding things that I've done in life. And so we can certainly talk about all of that in much more detail. And, but that's really it for me. I mean, it was a change of career and stepping into something that was totally new and totally different, totally uncharted territory for me. And so I would say that would be the moment to date where I had to dig down and took the most guts of anything that I've done.
Yeah, man, I can only imagine how crazy that would be. I mean, first of all, politics feels like it is one of the most cutthroat industries, right? I mean, here you are, I mean, you're a professional athlete, but I mean, gosh, they pull out all kinds of like dirty laundry that probably isn't even true or doesn't exist. And then they're challenging you on just unreal topics. Um, so you ran for office and then you ended up obviously not getting the position.
I got my butt kicked.
That's all right though. You know what though? You did it. And I think, you know, there's a lot of us out there who probably think about, you know, look at one way to make a change. We hear all the time is step up and run for office, right? I mean, they tell us to vote, but if you really want to be a part of the change, go do it, right? Go put your
exactly why I did it.
Yeah.
Yep. I found myself having really strong opinions about what was happening in the Congress. And one thing that I always disliked when I was playing football was armchair quarterbacks, the people that would sit in the stands and say, you guys suck, or you should have done this, or you messed that, you know, it's like, come on, man, you know, you're in the stands and I'm on the field for a reason. And so I noticed myself being one of those guys that was kind of sitting in the nosebleed sections, lobbing all of these insults at people in the Congress or politicians. And so I really looked in the mirror one day and I was like, you know what, if you want to keep doing this, then you gotta find the guts to actually throw your hat in the ring. And so that was one motivator for me. And the second one was that I really wanted a seat at the table. I really felt like there was a space, or maybe there was an appetite for somebody new, fresh, with a different perspective that wasn't married to the old slogans and the old ideas and some of those old policy models or the old planks in the platform, so to speak. And so that was really kind of the impetus for me. I was like, you know, that's more important than my fear of what people are going to say about me, the type of dirt they're going to try to dig up on me, you know, and those type of things. And so it really was, I kind of had to reconcile those two. I was like, is it worth, you know, going through that for what I think I can do, I can change, the difference I can make? And the answer was absolutely yes, it was.
So is there something you had known before you started to run for office? You know, now that you went through the process, you probably spent a ton of money, right? I'm sure learned a lot throughout the process, been through a ton of ups and downs, but what is something you learned after going through all of that?
So this was probably the best lesson that came out of that. And ultimately it's one of the lessons that led me to where I'm at today. And what happened is I jumped into, again, unfamiliar territory, an industry, if you will, that I had no idea how it operated. I didn't know what it would take to run for office. Had I won, I didn't have any idea what it would take to actually be a congressman in the House of Representatives. It's totally new to me. And when I started out, I was really, really lost, for lack of a better word. I was relying on people around me, advisors and managers and people like that, to kind of steer me down the road. And up to that point in my life, since I'd retired from football, so this was probably 2-3 years after I'd retired officially from the NFL. And again, you know my story a little bit. I'd struggled to really find my footing, and I'd tried several different business ventures in those couple years that ultimately weren't successful. And when I got into the early part of the campaign, and I realized, like, man, this is really hard, and this is going to require me to become somebody different, learn some new skills, perfect those skills, and just get better in general. I kind of realized something that had plagued me in some of those other business ventures that I tried in those years shortly after I retired from football. And I realized that the reason why I wasn't getting the same results as I was getting before in my sports and pro sports career was because I wasn't doing the same things. I wasn't applying the same principles, so to speak, that I used to be successful in football to the other things that I'd done in life. And so I really had a conversation with myself and just said, you know, there's a lot of parallels here. And if you can apply some of the same things, you know, the work ethic, dedication, commitment, the mindset, all these different things that you used to make it to the NFL, to anything you're doing, but specifically what you're doing right now, you've got a much higher degree, a much higher chance of success in that. And so that's what I did. I literally took my playbook, no pun intended, from my football career and dropped it right on top of my campaign and said, I'm going to approach this the same way I approached my football career. And sure enough, things started clicking. My whole attitude, my mindset changed. And so what I learned from that, to answer your question, I know that was a long-winded answer. What I learned was that even when we do something new, totally outside of our comfort zone, totally new territory, what we can do to not necessarily ensure success, because ultimately that campaign wasn't successful, I didn't get the job, but what we can do to increase or improve our chances of success is to reach back to the things that we've done before, the things we've used in our past endeavors to be successful, and apply those things to the new thing that we're doing. And again, that will increase or improve your chances of being successful at that new thing exponentially, because, you know, there's only so many things that are required, so to speak, to be successful. The same hard work I use in football, that hard work will translate in running a campaign or running a business or trying to build a platform like we're doing now. The commitment, the passion, the dedication, the attention to detail, the preparation, the obsessiveness, all of those things. Different industry, totally different field. You bring them over here and apply those to what you're doing now, exponentially improves the results. And so that was when I really opened my eyes to that. I'm like, man, I've learned so many great lessons as a pro athlete and so many great lessons on the road to achieving that goal. I'd be a fool just to dismiss all that stuff and empty my toolbox, so to speak, and try to start over and add a bunch of new tools. No, bring that toolbox over here, open it up, and start using these tools to build this house. And that's really what I realized through the course of that campaign. And that's what I started doing in my life and everything that I attempted after that. And that's exactly what I've done here, and with your guys' help, and obviously Amber at NGNG Enterprises, the whole team, we're building something new. And I'm using those same tools that I used to build my NFL career and things after that. So that was the lesson for sure.
Oh my gosh, I have to go back and listen to this recording because already I feel like I need a poster. I need to put everything you just said. I need to put all of that on a poster and just look at it every day. It's interesting, you know, you mentioned something, you know, hey, it was scary for you going into politics and going to this new world, and, you know, something that really wasn't familiar to you. And one of my favorite quotes is by Wayne Gretzky, and it's, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And it's so true.
Absolutely.
And, my story, and I'll be really brief about it, but I was in the corporate world. I was in the corporate world for over 20 years. My parents worked in a corporate environment, and they worked for aerospace, which in the 80s, living in Southern California, everybody worked in aerospace at that time. And so they worked for the same company for 20, 30 years. They retired, and you get great benefits when you work for corporations, and it's really safe, and you get pensions and, paid time off, and, all of these great benefits that come with working for a company. And so I think I felt like, well, this is what I always had to do. Like, this is what you do. This is the example that was set for me.
Mhm.
And it wasn't until things just started, changing for me. And I started thinking, well, is this really what I have to do? Like, who says I have to do this, right? Is this really all it's supposed to be? Is this the rest of my life, right? Sitting in this cubicle? Is this how the rest of my life is going to be? And
Yep.
I'm really loyal. I worked for 2 major corporations and was with them, each for over 10 years, and learned a lot and enjoyed my time there and met some really great people. But it was going into 2019, and I was like, I've got to change something. I wasn't fulfilled anymore. I was happy, but it was more like I was content, not happy. And I felt like something was missing. And I thought, all right, I started looking for another job. And I thought, why would I just like jump into another corporation? I'll just get into the same thing I'm in now. Like, that doesn't make any sense. And started exploring, being an entrepreneur. And it really was just taking that first step, and I finally told myself, it was like the new year. And I said, if you got to make a change, you got to take that first step. You have to do something different, even if it scares you. And it was scary for me. I have a family, they need health insurance, we have a mortgage, we've got, just like anybody else. I can't just, drop everything I'm doing and like jump into this thing that I don't even really know what it is, but I know it's something different than what I was currently doing. And so, it was super scary, but it was like, I have to take the shot. I have to try. I have to take the shot. I was very lucky. My family was very supportive and was like, okay, go do what you got to do.
Yep.
And it's funny if you really just put your mind to it. And like you said, you're disciplined. And, for me, I worked Monday through Friday. So it was like working on the business at nights or doing something on the weekends, if it was building a website, which I had never built a website on my own, but it was like watching videos, which by the way, are like all free, right?
Exactly. That's 𝐆𝐔𝐓𝐒 talked about that on our live stream a couple of weeks ago, that with the resources and the information that we have at our fingertips now, there's no excuse. If you want to step out and do something, you may fail, but you're not going to be able to blame that you didn't have the resources or you couldn't find the information or whatever. That's just not an excuse anymore. And so I think what's important, though, I didn't mean to cut you off, I'm sorry, but I think what's important about what you were talking about, because it coincides with the name of this show, No Guts, No Glory, and we talk about guts and bravery. A lot of people think that guts, bravery, courage, these type of things are these really big, deep, emotional things that require us to search our soul and dig down and bring up. And at the end of the day, when you talk about courage or bravery or whatever, it for me, it comes down to this: being afraid, but going anyway.
Yeah.
Right? It's not to say the fear doesn't exist. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't affect me. It's to say, yes, I'm scared. Yes, this is scary, but I'm doing it anyway. And if I could communicate one thing to viewers or people that are in a position where, especially right now, I talk to a lot of people on a daily basis that are like, I need to do something different, whether it's because they lost their job due to COVID, their business had to close, or they just see this as an opportunity to reinvent themselves or do something new. It's going to be scary. Mm-hmm. It's going to be hard. And you don't have to dig super deep or search your soul to try to find the courage to do it. Just acknowledge that you're going to be afraid and go do it anyway. That's really what it comes down to. It's a real simple concept. And that's obviously what you did. Like you said, yeah, I got mouths to feed, bills to pay. I'm scared, but what'd you do? You move forward anyway.
Totally. I just leaned into the fear and I did it. And I think we had talked a little bit before. It was actually maybe on one of your other videos on Be a Pro where you were talking about goal setting. And I think I'd asked you, like, did you ever have a plan B? And you were like, nope, it was plan A all
That's
the
right.
way. And I think
Right.
back and I think that's really, I couldn't fail. I had no choice. Like, I knew I was going to make mistakes along the way and do some things wrong and F things up or whatever it might be. But I knew I just had to keep stepping forward. I had to keep moving forward. And there was no plan B because plan B was I lose it all. Like I couldn't even think about a plan B, right? It
Plan
was
B.
plan A or nothing.
Plan B gives you an out. I've heard Tony Robbins say multiple times, if you want to take the island, you got to burn the boats. And I don't think that that's an original quote. I don't think he came up with that. He's just the first guy that I heard say it, but it's so true, man. When our backs are against the wall and when you cut off all the lifelines, you got no choice. There's nothing to fall back on. And if you're going to fall any direction, we want to fall forward into something new. If plan A doesn't work, I'm not trying to fall back. I'm trying to fall forward into something new, because a lot of times what happens is you'll step out and try something new. You'll face that fear, act in courage, be afraid, but go anyway, step into something new. And that might not be the thing, but what happens is as the universe conspires, as you've heard me talk about before, my favorite Paulo Coelho quote from The Alchemist, when you want something bad enough, the universe conspires to help you get it. As the universe conspires, you may meet somebody in this new endeavor that you stepped into that leads you to the thing that actually is your thing, right? So the thing you stepped out into, maybe that doesn't work. That plan A wasn't quite it, but it opened a door that leads you to the thing that is it. So this idea of having something to fall back on, I'm not trying to fall back. If I'm falling anywhere, I'm falling forward into something new. And I've always said that a lot of people don't succeed on plan A because plan A takes 110% of everything you got. And they had plan B ready to go, and they were putting about 80%, 70% into plan A and 20 or 30% on the backup plan. And that's why plan A failed. If I would have tried to have a plan B when I was playing football, I would have, my plan A, which was the NFL, would have lasted 1 or 2 years, right? Plan A worked and continued to work because I was giving it every ounce of my mental, emotional, and physical energy. And that's why plan A worked. And it wasn't until plan A was totally done and exhausted that I fell forward into a new plan A, not back to a plan B. So it's just a mental shift, but I think it helps. I think it helps reframe the starting over process, or that process a lot of people go through where they're trying to figure something out. Don't ever plan to fall back onto something. Just know that as you keep moving forward, if this thing you're doing, this plan A now doesn't work, that you're going to fall forward into something new.
It's so true, 100%. Even when I started working for NGNG, Amber and I were working on book launches together, and we're still doing the book launch marketing, but it's evolved so much more into, live streaming. And
Yes.
of course, she's had the agency, but we're starting to bring on clients who are needing just more services and different services, and we're doing more strategizing, and it's so much fun. And it's so true how you said, just move forward, lean into the fear, take that step. And it's probably those people you'll meet along the way that eventually will open that door into whatever that thing is that you're supposed to do. And it's funny because that's exactly what happened. I mean, Amber and I met 7 years ago at a marketing conference of all things.
Wow.
And yeah, look at where we are today. And now I get to work with people like you. And it's so fun. I mean, I work harder now than I've ever worked. I work more hours, I'm working weekends, but I still have a smile on my face. I'm totally energized. I'm excited. We're having so much fun. And it's just beyond anything I ever could imagine. But it really was just, take the shot. So
well, and what you're describing too is that's what it feels like when you're in purpose, when you're doing something that you're passionate about, right? And you've heard me talk before about the sacrifices that it takes to be successful or reach a goal or have some of the things that you want. I made a ton of sacrifices to make it to the NFL level, but as I've said before, when you're in purpose and when you're doing something you love, they're not painful. They're not painful sacrifices. At your old job, you might have hated working weekends or hated working the hours you're working right now. Those would have been painful sacrifices. But now, like you said, you're working more hours, you're working some weekends, but you're like, this is cool. I'm doing something that I love. And that's for me always the telltale sign of whether or not I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And it's almost a cliche now, which is sad, because people don't feel the weight of it. But when you're doing something you love and you're in purpose, it doesn't feel like work. I mean, you think I feel like I'm working? Sometimes I laugh when I text people and they're like, hey, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, I'm just doing a little bit of work today. I've got a live stream. I'm working on my book. I'm doing this type of stuff. And then I catch myself. I'm like, I'm not working. This isn't work. But, that's how I always know that I'm doing something that I love to do. And it's awesome to hear you say that, because a lot of people, because they're worried about, that sacrifice or what may come with something new that they step out and do, when they're in the place where you described, which I like to call happily dissatisfied. Nothing was particularly wrong, but you were just dissatisfied. You weren't where ultimately you wanted to be. And for most people, that's a comfort zone they're not willing to get out of. Right. But when you step outside of that and now you realize, like, wow, I'm happy and I'm much more satisfied because I'm pursuing something that I'm passionate about that feels much more purposeful for me. And so that's awesome to hear that from you too.
Oh my gosh, this has been so amazing. I feel like we could just talk for another hour, but our time is wrapping up. And Jimmy, I just appreciate you so much. I'm so grateful for you. And again, it's, being able to work with you. You teased your book a little bit, so I can't wait until we can start talking about that pretty soon. We really enjoy so much working with you and on your projects. And I'm just so excited for this next year for you. And who knows, 2024, Jimmy for president.
I doubt that. 2024, I hope that you and myself and everybody at NGNG is selling out stadiums, because we're changing the world and making a huge impact with our message and our books and our platforms. So that feeling is mutual, Patti. You guys are so amazing to work with. I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing with the live streaming and everything we're doing on social media and making the impact we are without you guys and your amazing team. So it definitely goes both ways. The feeling is mutual, and I appreciate you guys so much. And I'm always here for any more of these. You could have me on once a week if you wanted to. I mean, I like to come on and chat. So
yes. All right. I'm going to remember that.
All right.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful weekend. It's Friday. Take some time to just relax and hey, go chase your dreams.
See ya.
All right. Oh my gosh.